You're such an asshole.
I am never getting that 26 minutes of my life back. I did not charge enough. So, Jordan writes in, request reaction to this video, and the video is African Wife for 6 Cows. It is by a guy. His channel's name is just Arab. He's a guy in Atlanta. I looked him up. He's of Arabic or Middle Eastern descent. He happens to live in Atlanta. He's American. So it's not like he's an Arab overseas. He's an American, talks like he's married. He just happens to be of Arabic descent. Thoughts on purchasing a wife. 3, a lot of women from regions in Asia and Africa are raised to be wives and mothers, but the guys in these regions honestly don't produce many results given the fact they're raised that way. Thoughts on that? Thoughts on Geoarbitrage. All right, so the video. So I'm just going to call him Zoomer because I forgot his name already. It's one of them Kafabi Plus channels. It's like what's the word I'm looking for? Jerry Springer Plus. And the guy goes to different parts. Zoomer goes to different parts of the world. And they're dangerous, and balls to him for that. He does go overseas. He has a production crew. Obviously, the cinematography is good and all this other stuff. And maybe he actually did have other interesting videos. I think he interviewed a terrorist. He went to the favelas, all this other stuff. So there's some legitimate work that's going into it. But this one, oh my God. He happens upon this African family, and in a joking manner starts out like, well, how many cows to have you? You know, ha ha ha. And they actually kind of take him seriously. And all of a sudden he goes through this entire process to go to the market to go get some cows, to bring the cows back to marry this woman. And the conversation, I'm really reducing it. But it's what starts off as a joke all of a sudden becomes an actual economic exchange because that's what it is. And he's like, well, okay, so what? If I bring the cows here, you'll marry me? And what kind of wife will you be? Will you be a good wife? Oh, yes, I'll be a good wife. Everyone's laughing. It's so fucking funny. And then he goes through this whole thing, which good for him. He bought this family a bunch of cows. So he goes and he gets 6 cows. And the setup is that, okay, you are going to be his wife. And when it comes time to take her back to the United States, and he's got to be honest, like, hey, yeah, I'm not really getting married. And then she says, oh, yeah, I know. I just did it for the green card. And that's where I'm like, dude, it's not even real. It's fake and gay. And the only thing that's interesting that could be said about it is what you're asking me about it is, wow, these women are just willing to be wives. They're willing to, come over and cook and clean, probably have sex. It's like, yeah, because in that country, they're in Kenya. And Kenya is one of the better ones. Yeah, that's how it was back. That's how it was back in the day in the West. That's how it is today. And most of the rest of the second and third world. Women want to have someone take care of them. They will go make the babies. They will take care of the house. It's the classic division of labor. And in a post-industrial society, in a post-technologically advanced society, and I would say in a post-modern love where, back in the day, there was really not this romantic shit you see in the movies. It was an exchange. It was a business transaction. A lot of times, royals would marry off members of the family for strategic alliances. There's none of this, oh my God, he said the funny way. That's kind of I don't know when that would have happened. Probably in 1910s, 1920s, or later, where you get these romantic comedies and men are all just charming and dashing and women play hard. No, fuck it. They don't have time for that. White guy, or an American guy, rather, I should say, comes in. They're like, hey, look at this fucking money. She won the jackpot. And yes, there are still cultures like that, still economies like that. And to varying degrees, because second world, all right, yeah, you can work, but it's still, yeah. American citizenship, absolutely. Absolutely. But you're just going back in a time machine to see what was an economic transaction. Um, I think it was a little bit dishonest where you're going to go, you're wasting all these people's time and you're giving this girl, I don't know, necessarily hope. I mean, she was using him for himself, but it all just became theater in the end because you weren't going to take her home. This is Zoomer video at its greatest. It's a waste of 26 minutes of my life, and I'm glad I got paid to watch that. However, despite, I don't know, the intellectually dishonest, the sophomoric intent, and I can't complain, this guy has way more followers. He makes a mint. Jerry Springer's richer than me. Hulk Hogan's richer than me. He did this zany, funny skit. Oh, man, look, a wife for 6 cows. Oh, my God. So that's my reaction to the video. Thoughts on purchasing a wife? I would. It's up to you, buddy. Do you want a wife for economic purposes? That would be the main. Do you want her to just? Do you want a maid that you fuck occasionally? Nothing wrong with that. That's what it used to be since time immemorial. A maid and a housekeeper who would raise your children, who would fuck. Okay. There are many women across the. Hey, you provide me a living. I'll cook, I'll clean, and you could see it. I don't think she was insincere. If she could have gotten American citizenship, she'd be happy. Or she'd be improved economically upon her current situation. And if you look, I don't know, Philippines, Thailand, all these other places, yeah, women are, yeah. Hey, you're in this shithole. Do you want to come live in the United States where we got clean water and the not open sewers? Yes, I would like to come there. And I don't like you all that much, but by God, I will suck your dick and clean the house if I can have that much better standard of living. So there is a market for it. So whether you want it, whether you're honest with the gal. Like, hey, look, I just, are you looking for an employee or are you looking for a woman to love? That'd be the key difference. If you're just looking for an employee, oh, yeah, sure. And they're probably agreeing, they're fine with it. As long as everyone's consenting adults and we all agree and there's no lies, well, yeah, go. Literally, you could go buy yourself a wife. That's essentially what it is. That's what a dowry was. Here's this girl. This is back in the olden days. Here's a girl. She can't farm. She can't hunt. Get her off my ass. Here's some money. Here's a dowry. I don't know how they went. They were bidding up to 25 cows and went down to 6 cows. I don't know how that happened. But yeah, I'm sure they're happy to go if you want to purchase yourself a wife. Now, if you want to fall in love and all that, it won't be purchasing. It will be a voluntary agreement between both of you that you get to know the girl and you find out you like her and she likes you and you're the one for her and she's the one for you. And then you get married because you're in love in theory. But I'm going to assume you also want a traditional wife because you wouldn't be sending me how to buy a wife. So the traditional roles would ideally be agreed upon in like the traditional contract, the old school contract. I go work and make all the money. You take care of the house and the kids. But modernly, or just even you have to have that conversation now. All right, I love you. You love me. You want to have kids? You want to be a wife? All right. Well, here's the deal. I'm going to work. You're going to stay home and take care of the kids. And then depending on where you live, if you're in the West or especially the United States, you got to say, and you're not divorcing me. Or you stay in the home country where tradition, etc., still maintains itself. Doesn't mean if you're going overseas, there aren't laws. I mean, you got to be careful. Some countries got even worse laws than the United States. But if you want to fall in love, you want to have yourself a wife, you want to have yourself a classical family and kids, find a gal, overseas or not, I want a classic traditional relationship. I will work, you will take care of the children and take care of the house. And if she agrees to that and da da da, good. There you go. But I'm for it. Do you if as long as you know what you're doing, what you're getting into. Yes, you could probably go overseas right now, find yourself a woman who will maybe likely take care of you. There's a risk she'll get her green card because that's what that gal wanted, right? Say, no, I'm staying. I wonder what would have happened. Like, no, I want to stay here. We're not going back to the United States. I guarantee you it would have been more than 6 cows. Three, a lot of women from regions in Asia and Africa are raised to be wives of mud. Yes, that was some of the more authentic stuff where she's like, oh, I'll cook and clean. And yeah, oh, of course. I mean, it wasn't in debate. It was a given. And you could still see the traditional culture like, well, yeah, I'll cook and clean. Of course. What else would I do? But the guys in these regions honestly don't produce many results given the fact they're raised that way. I don't know if they're raised that way or if there just ain't no food. I do know if Africa wanted to significantly reduce its poverty, stop having so many kids, it's there are production economic reasons Africa is poor, but the biggest simplest one is if you didn't have 6 to 8 kids on average, your GDP per capita would do a lot better. And I've talked about that before, where if you're a man who makes $100,000, you're rich. If you have 10 kids, you're poor. So if it's just you and your wife and you have a kid as opposed to 8, your GDP per capita, if I did the math right, goes up more than doubles. It more than doubles. It has nothing to do with the economy. It's y'all having way too many kids you can't afford. And then these guys in the region only don't produce many results given the fact they're raised that way. I don't know. I was watching, it was a bunch of guys standing around, sure. They were the guys who actually raised the cattle. There was no economic infrastructure, technological investment, or capital. Why that is, I don't know. It's been a long time since I looked at foreign countries, let alone African ones, let alone Kenya. If I'm going to imagine the economic infrastructure isn't there in terms of the electrical or energy producing needs to run factories, and they're still doing subsistence farming. Are you going to maintain the tractor if we bring it to you, or you're not going to maintain the tractor? You're not going to maintain the tractor? Okay, well then have fun doing things by hand. That's a whole other thing. So I don't know if it's they're just a bunch of lazy bums. Like I don't know. They were raised that way. I'm like, well, is there even a factory for them to go work at? Thoughts on Geoarbitrage? Let's look at Geoarbitrage. What is this? Known as Geoarbitrage is a strategy that involves moving to a different affordable area to increase your income and improve your quality of life. I'm for it, yeah. Am I for you staying in one place just because you were born here or born in that? No. Go to where the opportunities are. One thing holding American young people down, I can't find a job. Where'd you apply? Oh, just locally. All right. That you got to apply over. Put that. I'll have to pay rent. Yes, you will have to pay rent. I gotta leave my family. Yes, you will leave your family. I am all for you going to wherever you are paid the most or treated best. Andrew Henderson, not Hendrickson. I'm thinking Jimi Hendrickson. Go to where you treated best, and not just financially, but romantically. I'll agree with you here very clearly. Of course, not all women. There's very few places men will be treated more poorly than you are in the United States, from a romantic sexual female perspective. Maybe Sweden and the Scandinavian countries, maybe some European countries, but there are very few places women treat their men worse. So I would, and that's why, again, I don't view it as humans. I view it more like a commodity. Oh no, we ran out of gypsum. There's no more gypsum in the mine. What do? You got to go overseas. Now, it depends on what you want. If you want truly strong, well, okay. Do you want women to be independent, productive, and even that, but let's just go. Do you want a bunch of women who act like men? Do you want a bunch of women that we're working and we're going to college and really fiercely independently, psychologically, maybe not necessarily financially? Is that what you want? Well, that's fine. There's girls here for that. Yes. Do you want a traditional submissive housewife? No, we ran out of that. We ran out of traditional housewife in the mind. There's no more traditional housewife in the mind. You're going to have to go overseas. That doesn't mean there aren't some remnant veins or yet to be a cache of traditional housewife to be found in some other cave that you have yet to, do a boring sample in. But yeah, if you run out of tungsten, you ran out of tungsten. You're going to have to import it. I would just figure out whether do you want an employee or do you want a wife? That's what I would do. So there we go. All right, let's go to the super chats. Elon Musk, $2. I'm the great one now. Dre has no power here. Your resident male cheerleader, $2. Buddy, you can get that without signing any papers. Or dealing with cows. It really is. There's some specifically to be said about a traditional housewife that supported you and was loving and demure. That you can't buy. You can buy a maid, sex, a nanny. Like you can piecemeal off these skills and abilities that traditional housewives would have done. I mean, they can be outsourced to people within the United States. But I think people had a lot more happiness and contentment when they came in one and that person loved you and just doted on you and like, oh my God, you're so fun to be. But no, that's not available anymore. That's not on the menu. Cappy, I found a really great woman. I'm glad you did, Herman. I'm glad you found her with Dave Ramsey in 1961. I'm glad you old timers found. I'm glad I found a great one. I'm glad you did. I'm not saying they're not out there, but generally speaking, there's only so much time. So in addition to looking for, some tungsten here in the United States, in the meantime, you may want to go overseas where it's a little bit more abundant. There you go. I linked to the video down below if you want to watch it. I don't recommend watching it. And we'll see you guys later. Toodles.